Hello and welcome to day 22 of the World of Wool Advent Calendar Spin Along. I'm Jess and this is Piano Spun Fiber Arts, and every day during the month of December I spin a little bit of wool fiber from the World of Wool Advent Calendar, the Fiber Edition. Today is day 22. We only have 4 blends left, and today we're going to open up day 22 and see what is inside it. So let's jump right in. What a pretty sweater pattern on this bag. You can see every kind of individual knit stitch. So cute. Day 22 is Mrs. Claus. Can't forget about Mrs. Claus. There are so many iterations of this character. I don't know if they have a specific one in mind. I think of two Mrs. Clauses kind of immediately when I think of Mrs. Claus. I think of Mrs. Claus in The Year Without a Santa Claus, which is one of my favorite Christmas specials of all time. That's where some of my favorite Christmas special music comes from, like Heat Miser and Snow Miser and Blue Christmas, which I'm not actually sure, because Elvis did a rendition of that song that's very famous too. I'm not sure which came first. I don't know if it was written for the music. I don't know if it was written for the movie or just used in the movie. And the other Mrs. Claus I think of is the Mrs. Claus from the Santa Claus series, specifically the Santa Claus 2, where Tim Allen is forced to find a wife and he finds her in his son's principal, which sounds weird saying it out loud, but it's really sweet. I think the Santa Claus 2 might even be the best of the Santa Claus movies. I always cry at the scene at their work Christmas party where he finds gifts for everyone. I just love childlike wonder, I guess. But when I think of Mrs. Claus, I think a lot of the same colors as Santa. She's got very similar, red clothes with the big white fluff. They're very iconically similar looking characters. Our blend here is Rose, that's so cute, Blue-Faced Leicester, Shetland, and Bio Nylon. So again, Rose is going to be a little bit of white. Rose is one of our nylon type fibers. What am I thinking? What am I saying? One of our derived fibers from plant fibers. And then Blue-Faced Leicester, Shetland, and Bio Nylon could all be a whole host of colors. And you already know that Bio Nylon is kind of a tough spin for me because of the way it sticks together. I'm thinking we're gonna see a lot of red. I'm thinking we're definitely gonna see some white in the rose fiber. So let's see what we're looking at. A lot more white than I expected. I guess it's kind of a softer than Santa look. And more pinks than reds. And yellows, a little bit of yellow in here. This reminds me a lot of a candy cane. But it is kind of peachy. That's so interesting. Really, really shiny because of that rose fiber. There's a lot of rose fiber in here. And then really pinky and peachy. There are definitely reds, but it's definitely a softer, more toned down color palette. Really pretty. So let's find out why we've got so much yellow in here by learning what World of Wool has to say about Mrs. Claus. Day 22, Mrs. Claus. 37.5% rose. I think that's the most of a plant fiber I've ever seen in a blend. 25% Blue-Faced Leicester, 25% Shetland, and 12.5% Bio Nylon. There is some debate as to whether there is a Mrs. Claus, and according to the film Mrs. Santa Claus, she does exist and is a bit miffed that she is seemingly the invisible wife. Mrs. Claus is first mentioned in the 1840s in a story about an old man and woman who are given shelter and give the children gifts in return. Often depicted as a female version of Santa Claus, it is only in recent years where there has been a more demand for her to be seen as a standalone character. This is a white-based blend as we wanted to deviate slightly from the traditional Claus red. We selected rose fiber as it's silk-like in texture and produces a bright sheen. It also complements the Blueface Leicester that it's blended with, lifting the naturally creamy shades slightly. We said deviate slightly earlier, as in we still added red to this blend in the form of Shetland Cherry. I'm gonna let you see the clock dance as long as we're here. I love that clock, but I always forget about it when I'm recording, that it goes off every hour on the hour, as long as it can see light. Where were we? In the form of Shetland Cherry, but in a smaller quantity so as not to detract from the lighter shades. As a final lift, we've used the Bio Nylon Golden to represent bright buttons and glasses, which are often mentioned when she is described. I guess that's true. I am thinking now, especially on my grandmother had one of those stand-up Mrs. Claus with those big round golden glasses. So all the yellow in here, that golden color, that's all the Bio Nylon. So pretty. And so different. I'll have to see it as a yarn before I decide what color it's going to get paired with. Because I think red might be nice, but I don't know if it'll spin up light enough that red will be a good contrast. It might not contrast it enough. We'll see when it's done. So I will be back with this as a finished yarn, and I will decide then what color it's going to get paired with. Stay tuned, I'll be right back. Here is our finished Mrs. Claus. It feels a little bit weird when I talk about how well a yarn turned out, because I know that I made all of them, but some blends are just easier to get even than others. And this one just came out so even. It really is almost as perfect as I could ask for a yarn to be. The ply twist is excellent, and it's just so well balanced. This one is beautiful. The shine is beautiful. The colors are beautiful. It really came out with this pinky, peachy vibe. It would actually be paired perfectly with yellow. I guess I kind of wished for too much because I don't want to do yellow 2 days in a row. I also have the yarn from yesterday, which I have now washed and finished, and I just want to show you how much this yarn has changed. Yesterday when I showed it to you in the costume closet, it came off a little dead, but now we have this really nice round bouncy ply structure, and of course we have so much texture from all our little tweed neps. We have that rainbow effect. So I think I might actually change my mind I think our Buddy the Elf might be best paired with white, like the neps, like the trim on his coat. And I think that Mrs. Claus might be best paired with yellow, like the rims of her glasses. So I'm gonna change my mind just a little bit, which I only had the option to do because I am a day late in knitting socks. Today is the final performance of the Wonderettes, which is where I'm headed in about an hour. This show has been so much fun. It is for just incredibly talented girls who learned all of these really tight harmony songs, and they just did a fantastic job. I'm so proud of them. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of a taste of their final number, which is Winter Wonderland. And I'm gonna let that play for the rest of this video, and you'll get a little behind the scenes look of what it looks like to be in a pit backstage for a musical like this. So I hope you stick around and enjoy that. If not, I will see you tomorrow. Please enjoy the Winter Wonderettes.
Merry Christmas, Richie.
Merry Christmas, Bill.
Merry Christmas, Bob.
Sleigh bells ring.